All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into some interesting articles you sent my way. It seems like Canada and Portugal might be having second thoughts about buying those F-35 fighter jets.
Yeah, it's definitely caught people's attention.
For sure. So we're going to unpack why that might be happening. And, what happens if they decide to go for the JAS 39 Gripen instead? I mean, it's a big deal, right? You got the F-35, which we know has seen action, at least from what we're hearing about Israel's missions. It's a proven combat jet. And then there's this alternative, the Gripen. It's, potentially easier on the budget, but does it have the same firepower, the same tech?
That's the big question a lot of people are asking.
Exactly. So let's break this down. What's driving this whole reevaluation?
Well, it looks like there's some geopolitical stuff at play here. Seems like both Canada and Portugal are, maybe a little frustrated with how things have been going with U.S. foreign policy lately.
Yeah, the articles mentioned this shock about the U.S.'s stance on the Ukraine war and whether or not Zelensky's getting enough support. And of course, for Canada, there's that whole thing with the trade war, the tariffs, back and forth. Makes you think, how does all this political tension affect these big defense deals?
Good question. You see, when a country starts to feel like their main ally isn't always on the same page, they might start looking for ways to be a bit more independent when it comes to defense. It's not just about this one purchase. It's about long-term security. Figuring out how to plan ahead when things are a bit uncertain, especially within alliances like NATO, where there's an expectation of mutual support.
Absolutely. But let's not forget what the F-35 brings to the table. I mean, from what I'm reading, this is a serious piece of military hardware. The reports from Israel, the capabilities, the whole package.
Right. The F-35 is top of the lines when it comes to aerospace tech. Stealth capabilities, adaptable software, the ability to work with drones, and it's got a huge global support network, which is important for long-term maintenance and updates.
It sounds like a pretty comprehensive package, honestly.
It is.
So where does the JAS 39 Gripen fit into all of this? Well, the main thing that pops up is the price tag. Seems like it's quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah. Cost is a major factor, especially when you've got budgets to think about and maybe priorities are shifting a bit.
The articles call it a capable aircraft, so it's real slouch. But that focus on cost, that really stands out.
It does, but there's a trade-off. You switch to the Gripen, and you're looking at a whole new set of logistics. Training has to be adjusted, and the way you operate strategically, that changes too.
Makes sense. And we can't ignore the differences in, what these jets can actually do. From what I'm reading, the Gripen doesn't have that same advanced stealth tech. Sure, it's harder to detect than some, but not invisible to the really sophisticated radar systems.
Exactly.
And its software, it's not as adaptable. The drone integration, not as advanced. And the supply chain, it's just not as big. So maybe saving money up front leads to other challenges down the line.
It's a complex equation. Canada's decision in particular has a lot of people watching closely. It's not just about their Air Force. It could have ripple effects globally.
Right. If a country like Canada, a major U.S. ally, decides to go a different route, other countries might start thinking twice about the F-35 too. And that could have big implications for the U.S. and its role in defense partnerships around the world.
Absolutely. It raises the question, what's more important, the most advanced tech, which often comes with a huge price tag, or maybe a more cost-effective option, especially when relationships are, maybe not as solid as they used to be.
It's a balancing act, that's for sure. So it seemed like what we're really talking about is this tension between politics and, the reality of military needs. What you need versus what you can afford, given all these other factors. And Canada's decision might just be a sign of things to come. For the whole fighter jet market, really, and international cooperation.
It's something to think about, and it leads to a question for all of us. When a country is trying to decide what's best for its defense, what should be the deciding factor? The absolute best tech, strong partnerships, keeping things affordable. What do you think matters most? It's a tough call, and one that both Canada and Portugal are grappling with right now.
Some heavy stuff to consider there. Thanks for breaking all that down for us.
You got it. Always happy to be here.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the news that matters.